I think by the end of maybe next year.
So that is in terms of
But the
roads.
other part, it is really pathetic because the reason is, you know, we've been duplicating our responsibilities. We've been doing works, you know, we've been prioritizing on things that should not be, you know.
So that's in terms of the road. But what about in terms of food security? Because Wajir, again, come January, will be one of the countries that is affected by drought if we find ourselves in that situation. Then come December, again, Wajir is one of the countries that is found in flooding. So even in terms of food security, are there any projects on the ground in Wajir when it comes to water harvesting? Anything that is being taught to empower the local residents to face whether it's drought or flooding in a much more effective way?
Unfortunately, there is nothing. You know, our people mainly they are pastoralists, and mainly we do livestock, and then also the climate there, and also the soil doesn't favor our people to do farming, so that is the main challenge. But I think if we do a proper research, and we do harvesting. We can really save that situation.
You said when it's governed by people who don't care. Who are those people? Because you're the one who's supposed to be one of their leaders.
You know, I'm only the women rep for Wajir County, and this is the first time I'm.
But you can't belittle it as only.
You see, yeah, we've been having government before. This is not the only government. We've been having government before. This is 50 years. I think 50, 100 years now. Wajir, the roads are bad. I think if we really really care about the marginalized people and prioritize on the needs, especially if now you open up all those roads, if you help those people, you know, they'll go into, in terms of empowerment, you know, in terms of, that region will do wonders.
So as it stands, are people getting any help?
Apparently no.
Even the women and children?
No. There's nothing going on there. As the leaders, we've tried to mobilize resource. We went to Red Cross, we've gone to the Ministry of Devolution, ASAL and the NDMA. At least there is something, but that's not what we really wanted to see.
Is there a strategy to ensure this doesn't happen? Are you sitting down, are you planning, are you building something? You have emergency budgets even in the counties. What are they being used for?
We really don't have counties now. I'm sorry to say that.
So
we only have counties that are looting public funds. We don't have counties that are sensitive to the ordinary wananchi. When it comes to counties, we just leave that on the side. The only hope now we have is through donors and the national government, you see. But as a country, for me, we only work on the postmortem. You know, we are not disaster prepared. We're not prepared in terms of disaster management. These are something that we can avoid.
Exactly. So, Honorable Costani, let me rope you in. These are things that we can avoid. The floods, the drought, it is not an unforeseen disaster. It's not something that caught us off guard as maybe it would be a hurricane or an earthquake as we've seen in other countries. This is something that the weatherman told us and warned us way in advance. Where are we going wrong? What is the missing loophole here? I don't understand why, because you can bribe Mother Nature. But at the same time, the government cannot do simple activities such as, e.g., providing projects to empower women and men and children in Wajir County. Here in Nairobi, clogging our roads is still a challenge in 2019.
Well, I think the biggest issue here is we are competing against Mother Nature, which is very difficult for us as humans to win the war against Mother Nature. We even saw what happened in Japan the other day.
So you can compare what's happening in Japan and things that are foreseen.
It is the same thing. It is about the same thing. But what we need to know here is that we live in a very unique geographical sector in our country. And I think as we plan, our counties now need to know, first of all, we need to know the functions of creating the waterways and paths for the water to go through so that we don't have floods is a function that is devolved. It is supposed to be with the counties and the MCAs to do it. So those counties that are flood prone should actually prioritize those areas, because it shouldn't be a recurrent thing. It should be something that we are prepared for. Because as you say, after the rains, we go for the drought. After the drought, we come for the floods. So I think our counties need to wake up, and those counties that are flood prone, within flood prone areas, need to wake up and serve the wananchi better.
As Member of Parliament, what are you doing to make sure that you push the MCAs to do that?
Well, my county we don't have issues of floods in my county, so we are busy prioritizing other things.
What would you like to see the others doing then?
Oh, we'd
Your
like to see them invest in equipment, because what they really need is water needs to be guided to a safer ground. So they need to buy equipment so that when there are rains, create dikes, block some part of the water pathways, and direct the water to safer ground where it will not harm the wananchi. I mean, it sounds simple. It's not as simple as it sounds, but it can be done.
Okay. Should we? You wanted to jump in?
Yeah, but you know, we must have this conversation around how to deal with these effects of climate change, because we can be talking here about, you know, the shorter term measures, but if we continue to allow people to live in our forested areas, for example, because one of the, you know, the greatest causes of the climate change that we are experiencing is deforestation, because it's emission of too much carbon dioxide. Then we cut our trees, and the trees are the ones that are supposed to absorb the carbon dioxide. So if we are going to sit here and pretend like the issue of the Mao, for example, is not a real issue, because we must support government, because government is saying, let's get people out of the forest, let's make sure we grow trees. But people are saying, no, let people stay in the forest.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense, because we will be sitting here year in, year out, talking about the flooding, not just at the level it is now, at more increased levels. And even droughts will be more severe if we do not deal with the issue of our environment today.
Yeah.
And that is why we must all give a commitment. I mean, Caleb and his brothers, all of us must give a commitment, and sisters must give a commitment that we must support government in efforts to conserve our environment.
In fact, that's what I wanted him to speak about. Honorable Kositany, what's your position on that? Should people leave them out?
Well, people should leave them out. People should leave the Mao, especially those who are within the forest. Yeah. But the Mao settlement area, the Mao trust land, is land that is under the county government. It is land that was allocated. It is land that was sold to people. Those people are rightfully there. But those within the forest, they should leave.
Within the forest.
Yes.
And now that is where the rubber meets the road, because
yes.
now everybody has their own
forest,
definition of within and outside of
yes.
the forest. Anyway, let's just shift gears and talk about the newspaper dailies now. Let's see what's going on the front page of the Standard. That's where we begin. The masters of doublespeak. Politicians for every season. One day they're supporting devolution. The next they're tearing it apart. Today they want a presidential system of government. Tomorrow they're whipping up emotions for a parliamentary system. There is never a dull day in Kenyan politics. And they've quoted the president and the former prime minister and also the deputy president, William Ruto, on several occasions where they've said different things that are almost contradictory. And this brings in the issue of the BBI. I don't want us to speculate because the report is not out yet, but what would you like to see captured, Honorable Wanga?
What we, as part of the Embrace movement, we actually presented a memorandum to the BBI of what we think, if we're going to, have amendments to the Constitution, what we should see. And the BBI process identified 9 key issues, and you know them, and we have to be able to deal with corruption, and we have to be able to deal with inclusivity, because we do not want a Kenya where some Kenyans are part of Kenya, some other Kenyans feel like their parts of the country are not part of Kenya. So a big issue for us was inclusivity and inclusion. And inclusion, not just of the all tribes of Kenya, for example, but also of women, of special interest groups, of persons with disabilities, and so on. So our presentation to the BBI captured, of course, the issue of inclusion. First, we said we would like to see an expanded executive.
Is that the only way of including everyone?
No, it's not the only way. It's a proposal. I said first, So first, we spoke about an expanded executive as part of our proposals of ensuring that as many, facets of Kenya as possible are included, but also that the functioning of government is such that power is not concentrated in just, very few or just 2 or just 1 individual, but also just making government more functional. In the expanded executive, for example, apart from having a prime minister and their deputies and their deputy president and so on, because even right now we have a presidential system, but you can see that in terms of dealing with day to day, because the head of state now is, the president is head of state and head of government. But you can see that for better efficient functioning, he has designated a super CS, to be able to deal with the daily running of government.
Right. Wanga, let me pause you there on that idea. You'll get to finish it for us. Let me bring in Honorable Gedi on this specific one. Page 5, I'm looking at page 5, and the three leaders are standing there, three key political leaders in Kenya. We all know the 2010 talks around the constitution. Devolution was one of the stickiest points in that discussion, in the Naivasha 2010 discussions. But you can tell what was being discussed in 2010 in Naivasha and what's on the ground right now are two different things. Are our Kenyan politicians making ideas or supporting ideas and throwing their political weight behind it because it is good for the nation or because it is good for them as individuals? Because how is it that one morning you wake up and you support devolution, the next you're on a different note? Today you're supporting a presidential system, then tomorrow you call for a different kind of system.
You remember in the last referendum, some leaders said, yes, let us pass this constitution, but it has 20%, it's not okay. But let us pass it, and then maybe we rectify the. And then there are some leaders who are opposing it, saying this referendum is not good for the country. Where the double speaks now comes is the same leaders who are opposing are now saying this constitution is good for us. Yeah, but it is good and it is bad. Of course, when it comes to devolution, we wanted to see devolution, the money is devolved fully to the counties, you see. And also some powers is devolved fully to the counties.
Right.
But again, of course, devolution has done wonders in some parts of the countries, but also in other parts of the countries, it was a curse.
So is it fair to admit that Kenyan politicians choose or throw the weight behind an idea based on what it will do for them and not for the greater good of the nation?
They choose what they see fit them at that moment. If they see this constitution is okay to them, to their interest, they don't care about the mwananchi. Why I'm saying that? Of course, we've been saying this constitution, we will, going forward, we'll see the 20%, what we need to change. Now, from where we've been, where we were, where we come from as a country, now it is the time our leaders are saying, let us bring Kenyans together. Let us have one Kenya that is inclusive. Let us have peace. And let us have, inclusivity. The only way you can have inclusivity is both at the national level and the county level, we devolve even power sharing and everything and resource. Right now, the situation we're having on the ground as the county government is different. We have governors who only concentrate on certain constituency that they come from. We have the minorities being sidelined from resource allocation. We have minorities being sidelined from even positions at the county level. You see, that is not the Kenya we want. Come to the national government, we still have the same. Why are we fighting all the time? Why are we shedding blood? Why are women killed? Why are children killed? That is now what we don't want. And that's why we're waiting for the BBI report, as you said. Let's wait and see and, have the opportunity to interrogate. And I think we will going to have a better Kenya going forward.
Okay. Honorable Kositany, why is this such a sticky issue, the issue of expanding the executive?
Well, first of all, my two colleagues here are on record as having said they support the BBI, even though they haven't seen the report, but I have a feeling they know what is in the report. But that said and done is that constitutional...
the same can be said for your side of the divide. We are not supporting the BBI, but you haven't seen what's in it.
You can go back and check on the report. But let me
Caleb there just for 1 minute.
Let me say this, that...
I will give you a point.
Let me just say this. This photograph here is on page 5. I believe this was at the DP's residence in Karen when he had invited the president and the former prime minister for a meal. And it's a very good photograph for the country. The issue of constitution making should be an all-inclusive affair. If we go back to 2010, I was in the red group which opposed this constitution, which were led by the Deputy President, William Ruto, and many others, that we opposed this constitution. And we were saying we have a few areas that need to be rectified, let us rectify that, and then pass it. But we were told, Katiba kama sio sasa, ni sasa hivi, and we passed it. But now that we passed it, it does not mean that when you oppose something, and when it comes to, when it passes, then you are left out. We were not left out because we opposed this constitution. We are now part and parcel. It is now our constitution. So the issue of inclusivity. Inclusivity is a very broad term to use. When we say we want to change the constitution now because of inclusivity, really, is that the real reason? Inclusivity starts with us in the mind. First, we need to accept that when we go for an election, there's going to be one winner, and there has to be a loser. That is where inclusivity needs to start. The other thing about inclusivity is we need to have a leader who, once you have won election, then you behave the way the Jubilee government has behaved. Carry out development across the country. Let nobody feel that they are being left out because they voted otherwise. Let us have roads being built in every constituency. Let us have whatever the employment across all tribes, so that nobody feels left out. But we can never have a constitution that will satisfy all the 42 or so. I think we have more than 42 now. We've added some other two. I think we have now 44 tribes. We can never have legislation that will have all the 42 tribes say, yes, now we are fully. Inclusivity starts with us as the individuals. And as we push this BBI story, we need to be very careful. You could be having a very good product, but the person who is marketing the product is a very poor marketer, and you end up losing market. The BBI, Building Bridges Initiative, that is the head title. If you are building bridges, then build bridges for all. There should not be an issue of a tsunami coming. If you have built bridges, why is there a tsunami?
Honorable Caleb, even as much as we're talking about inclusivity in this day and age, which is quite important, but let's be realistic about it in the sense that even given our public debt, can we as a country moving forward be able to afford an inclusive, an all-inclusive government, looking at our wage bill as a nation, where we are standing? It's good on paper, inclusivity for everyone. We can preach that.
I agree with you.
But is it doable? Does our money allow us? Does where we are as a country allow us in terms of our finances?
That is why we want to wait for this proposal. And they had better bring it out this week, because they have kept us waiting. We have seen, I don't know who gives the leakages, whether they're real or fake, or is it testing the waters. We saw a 14-pager thing the other day.
They said it wasn't real.
Yeah, they say it wasn't real, but you never know. You know, maybe it's to test the waters, but we really want to see it. At the end of the day, we have to look at where we are as a country financially. Are we able? Can we afford? We have an election coming up in 3 years' time. We have issues that we want to do with IEBC and everything. We have a lot of other commitments that we need to take in. Is changing the constitution, if BBI will propose, will it require a referendum? Those are the things that and what are the costings? So all that will be part of the public debate. And we need to also know that we also hope that this BBI story will be subjected to public participation, because this one was marred in a lot of secrecy. I want to tell you very honestly, as a member of parliament from Uasin Gishu County, whereby we are led by our governor, Jackson Mandogo, none of the elected leaders of Uasin Gishu was invited.
To participate.
And the key word here was invited, because people were being invited to give their views. It was not a public thing that we are here, come and give your views like it was during 2010. It was by invitation. So we were not invited. So our views in BBI, we don't have, none of our views are there. But we are waiting. We are Kenyans. We live in this country. We will wait to see the proposals, and then we give our
suggestions. And Wanga wanted to correct something.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, Caleb shouldn't call this BBI story, because that is a belittling. This is what Caleb and his team have devised to belittle BBI, a process that has been initiative to bring Kenyans together. They call it Beba Baba. They call it all manner of names. Okay. And first of all, that has to stop if we want to move together forward as a country, as they say. Secondly, he said that he thinks we know what is in the report. No, we don't know what is in the report. What we know is that BBI has 9 points. One of them being One of them being
That's public
inclusivity.
knowledge.
That is public knowledge, surely. If you don't know, then I don't know which Kenya you're living in. Yes, it is official. The 9 points of the BBI, you know, even if you oppose something, read at least what it says, you know, so that you debate from a point of knowledge. It talked about solving corruption. Yeah. Is corruption a problem to Kenyans? Yes, it is. You know, is inclusivity a problem? Yes, it is. Is our electoral, you know, violence, you know, violence after every election, divisive elections, is it a problem? Yes, it is. So the 9 points of the BBI, you know, and our shared responsibility and our shared prosperity, those are points in the 9-point agenda of the BBI.
The question is how to go about them.
No, and this is what I'm coming to. The reason we support the BBI is because we agree that the issues, the 9-point agenda are problems to this country and they need a solution. And BBI, the team there, does not have the solution. They are going around the country, even was in Gishu. They went and published on the newspaper that we are in such and such a hotel in Eldoret. If you have any views, come. Nobody invites you to present to the BBI. We presented to the BBI. We wrote to the BBI and told the BBI we have views as women of Kenya to give to this process. Then they told us this is the time to come and present.
So you were not officially invited?
Nobody was being invited. People were going and volunteering their views. Leaders everywhere. They came to Homa Bay. Our leadership went. They went to Moranga. The leadership went. They went to all parts of this country. And their program was always public and published. So this idea that we were not invited to present to the BBI is another way of undercutting the BBI process. Okay. And if we are going to deal with issues of inclusivity, it has to be a deliberate move, because just having an election and relying on the goodwill of leaders to be able to have inclusivity does not happen. He gave an example of the Jubilee government. For the last 5 years of the Jubilee government, Kenyans felt excluded. And that is why people would even die in an election, because they feel like this government is for two communities. If you saw a position, if it was not for one community, it was for the other. The rest of the communities were outside of that government. In fact, positions held by some communities were considered vacant for other communities to take. We cannot agree with that kind of system. We cannot be fooled going forward. We have to deal with these issues once and for all.
Okay. Honorable Gedi.
You know,
a very passionate appeal.
Yeah, she is. Yeah. You know, I think we are dealing with a perception. We are not dealing with the reality. And I also want to agree. I think we've seen, after the handshake is when we've seen development go into every part of this country. Yeah. And Mheshimiwa Caleb knows that. And when it started going to this side of Nyanza, some quarters were protesting and saying, why SGR going to Kisumu, why this port? But I think as Kenyans, we all belong to this country. And we have the right to, you know, enjoy from the government. Coming to the BBI, I think let's not, you know, go diversional way. You know, it's not about an individual. It's about Kenyans. It's about, you know, better Kenya. I remember they came to Wajir. I was there as a leader. My senator was there. All the leaders were there. Nobody invited us. We saw it from the advertisements, the local radios. But we said, as people from Wajir, as leaders from Wajir, we need to go and present our views. So I think saying one county was not invited, I think it's not true. If we go that way, you know, we're going to divide our people. Yeah. And again, I remember Mheshimiwa Caleb and his team. They've been the one castigating the BBI from the onset, you know, saying this thing is not good. And they're the ones supporting the Punguza Mzigo openly. And that is why you can see where he comes from. The only county that voted for Punguza Mzigo is his constituency. That one clearly tells you they were, from the onset, they were not for the BBI. Okay. Yeah.
So he's right next to you. Honorable Caleb, what is it about the BBI that you don't agree with? If it's the lack of national ethos, whether it's inclusivity, devolution, shared responsibility, shared prosperity, fighting corruption, these are good things to any Kenyan's ears they would support. What is it about the BBI that you don't agree with?
The 9 points are very good points.
But
how are they framed? What are the sentences? What are where are the commas? Where are the full stop? That is what we're waiting for.
So, for example, let's talk
and
about
the issue that I have with the BBI.
What is so wrong with expanding the executive? Because it doesn't say that then now the person you support can't run.
No. That is why I started by saying, and that is why I said in 2010 we were against this constitution. We voted no, but we are part and parcel of this constitution now. We were not excluded because we voted against it. So even these proposals by BBI, even if we oppose them and they eventually go through, and I'm not saying we're going to oppose them, we're waiting for the proposals. If we like them, we will support them. And some people may not be very happy when we in the stance that we will take, but we are waiting for the proposals to come.
So why are you creating this narrative that someone
the issue is this BBI, and I said it before, that you may have a very good product, but the person marketing it is wrong. The way President Uhuru Kenyatta is marketing BBI is very good. He's not forcing it. He is bringing it out and saying, we want something good. But we have Raila Odinga, who is telling us there is a tsunami. BBI is a must. Na ikikuja itabeba wengine. What are we building the bridge for? And let us be very careful. This tsunami that is coming, if it will come, could even carry the bridge. So let us be careful with the statements that are made by leaders. Let us not Kenyans right now are in a very, very, very tight situation. Kenyans want to see what leaders are saying. They want leaders to speak to the problems they are facing at the moment. And I think we are going to go there, but let me just say, what happened during the Mashujaa Day? Mashujaa Day, and I'm going to, when we get back into Parliament, I'm going to give a proposal. We need to have a program for public holidays. Let us have those who are going to speak be those who are meant to speak at public functions. The governor, the deputy president, the president. Let us cut it to that.
Who did you have a problem with?
No, I'm just saying this because I think Raila Odinga should not have spoken during Mashujaa Day because he actually didn't tell us much. He told us about BBI. He told us about things that do not resonate with the heroes we were celebrating. And I think as a country, we have forums. We have forums whereby we can air our political views, but Mashujaa Day should be left. Leave BBI out,
so in
leave handshake out. Mashujaa Day should have a set program. The host governor, the deputy president, and the president. Let
me say this. Let me say this. Yeah. And that is why I was saying we are dealing with perceptions. Mm-hmm. And it is now clear that Caleb is dealing with, he has a Rhilophobia in him, really. You see, you cannot sit here and tell us Raila should not have been spoken. How is it different? How many celebrations, Mashujaa, Kenyatta days, do we have in this country? Raila is a statesmanship. You know, once you have a problem with individual, that is why you're dividing this country. And you need to respect the person. You need to respect the person. Is a leader. You see, he's a statesmanship. He is a former prime minister of this country. Raila is not just Raila. We know he has an issue with Raila because they think Raila will going to run and he's his competitor. That one we are not here for politics. Deputy President himself has been in record inviting the Right Honorable Prime Minister to speak. Why is it different when this time he came and spoke about BBI? And in fact, from where he sits, he is a Jubilee Member of Parliament. BBI was initiated by the President and gazetted by the President. If indeed he is true, he's supposed to respect the President because this is President who gazetted it and appointed these eminent people to go and collect the views of this country. Yeah. So it is an hypocrisy and we should not go this direction.
Honorable Wanga?
Also, you know, we were skirting around the issues. The issue is Raila Odinga. Yeah. It's not BBI. It's not the 9-point agenda. It's not what is good for Kenya. It is because Raila Odinga is involved with the BBI that Caleb and his folks have a problem. But we must separate individuals for what is good for Kenya. Raila Odinga will not live forever. This constitution that is being done, it is not being done for Raila Odinga. It is being done for Kenya, our children, ourselves, our children, and our children's children. Okay. Raila Odinga might never be here to enjoy the fruits of the constitution or for the fight he has fought for this country from where we were. Even the freedoms we enjoy today, even the freedom for Caleb to sit and talk about whoever he wants on this table, is because of the freedoms that Raila Odinga and other heroic Kenyans have been part of the fight for. Okay. In fact, let me just finish. Because In Kakamega, for example, it was the deputy president who invited Raila Odinga to speak in Kakamega. Yeah. You know what is the problem is when Raila Odinga goes to any part of this country, even in Narok when he was denied opportunity to speak, Kenyans love him. You cannot stop that. You cannot stop them from loving him, from cheering him. You know, that is part of the reason. And when he says Raila Odinga did not talk about, heroes on Mashujaa Day, who told us about Mekatilili Wamwenza and how she was arrested and how she had to walk several kilometers from the prison where she was put back into Mombasa to come and continue to the fight for freedom? It was Raila Odinga who gave us that history at the Mashujaa Day podium. So really, we must separate the individuals from the issues. Okay. And Lindsay, you talked about cost. What is the cost of this country going to war every 5 years after every election? What is the cost of that? Can you compare that cost to a cost of a government that Kenyans feel they are part of? Okay. Can you compare that cost to the cost of dealing with the issues? That is why since the handshake, our economy is on a growth path. Okay. Because before the handshake,
a growth path that Kenyans are not feeling.
You don't feel economic growth in one season. All right. You don't feel economic growth immediately. Economic growth is something that over the year you see, at the next year you see, and Kenyans will see. Even all these infrastructural developments that are going to every part of the country, Kenyans will soon feel. If a port is in Kisumu, let me tell you, Kenyans, especially of that region, the whole of Western region, will soon feel a difference in their pocket. Okay. Right. If we have Dongo Kundu in Mombasa, Kenyans in that region will feel. If the SGR is going to Suswa, Kenyans in that region will soon feel.
And speaking of SGR, we want to take a commercial break so we come back and discuss that the SGR to nowhere. But first of all, feedback?
There's a lot of tweets coming through. Should we read them now and then let's see what they're saying. Sir Nixon from Kindaruma says, just how do one double speak or double think, i.e. holding two contradictory beliefs in their mind simultaneously and accept both of them? It's just crazy.
All right, still sticking on SMS. Remember, you can tell us your name and where you're watching from, just like Chebi in Baringo. Good morning. You say, it is true. Most of our leaders have consistently become double speakers. The tragedy is that Kenyans follow them blindly to and fro. This only means we as Kenyans don't use our heads, our conscience or experience. The guest in studio cannot be spared either.
All right, comment from Eldoret says, the Auditor General has continually exposed the use of billions of shillings by county assemblies on benchmarking trips outside the country. One wonders how these trips have been beneficial to the counties close to 7 years into devolution. How comes none of them can tame these floods from knowledge gained from their trips? It seems they are mere shopping sprees. It's very sad.
Okay. You don't say who you are, but this is what you say. We cannot claim to be working on inclusivity while others were not included in the handshake thing from the word go. How can a decision of two individuals be termed as national initiative? Former Prime Minister Raila and Deputy President Ruto should handshake before we move on with the BBI thing. Okay.
All right. Let's see what you're saying on Twitter. If we bring that up at Citizen TV Kenya, Trevor Mbijat Zinzi_K, use the hashtag Daybreak. Samo Indi says, lack of human empathy and depth of intelligence, reflection, lack of plans and actions by our leaders and leadership has really contributed towards the miseries, which he continues to say our leaders are all victims of political miscalculations, daily hiding in the nebulous face of political interest. Truth. They don't have the Kenyan interest at heart.
Okay. Engineer Lazaro, good morning to you. Today you're saying that emergency preparedness in this country is wanting. We're doing very little to sensitize wananchi about natural calamities. You go on to say that politicians in this nation are unpredictable. You wouldn't predict what they would say in public. You wouldn't predict what they would say in a public rally tomorrow. Otherwise, unity of a nation is paramount. That's why I'm fully behind BBI. Hashtag Daybreak.
All right. Nico Maingi says, BBI is suggesting we elect the parliament. The parliament then elects the president. The president will appoint the prime minister and his or her two deputies. The fact that Kenyans aren't allowed to elect their president is a coup d'etat situation which tolerates dynasties.
Okay. Steve, you say BBI wasn't reached out by any individual, but by individuals representing a majority of Kenyans, hence the will of wananchi. Anybody opposing the team is a political sycophant, threat to the national unity, and digging political grave.
All right. Charlie says floods in Kenya are predictable. The effects predictable. Government response, lack of it, is also equally predictable.
Okay, that's true.
All right. And on that note, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the BBI a bit and then get into the SGR as well. See you in a bit.